Welcome back to the Kitchen Chefs. Excited to have you. This week we want to talk a little bit more about just. Also, we're back in our matching outfits.
Yeah.
Another batch record. But this week we're going to be talking about our year one of business and talk about kind of what we learned in year one, what we regret in year one, and what we think needs to be talked a lot about more in year one. Talked about more in year one. Pricing yourself, treating your business as a business. Really setting the groundwork on how to actually turn a side hobby that just you get Venmo'd for into an actual career that you can provide with and create a sustainable lifestyle, which should be the goal.
It should
right?
be. Yeah, it should be.
If that's not your goal, what are your goals?
Yeah. Why
Because
would you set out to not pay
If my goal
for your life?
is, I wouldn't. It's not worth it to me if this isn't to sustain my life.
Yeah. If you're just setting out to travel the world, sorry,
And film other people's weddings without actually having anything to live off of, it's just not worth it.
yeah. Yeah, keep going. Just do the intro. Sorry.
We will dive into that on the kitchen. Also, you guys, the Written by You series is alive and well. We want to hear from you, so please, link below, submit anonymously your wedding horror stories for the podcast, and we will read them and react to them completely anonymously. The link is below. But without further ado, let's cook.
Living in a daydream. Ooh, such a sweet thing. Life on the big screen. It's such a beautiful scene, yeah.
Hello, Jacob.
Welcome back to another batch recording. Obviously,
Yeah.
we are still in studio, still construction crew working behind us.
Still wearing the same clothes
Still
as
matching
each other.
clothes.
Yep.
Also, I don't think I'm a beanie guy. I look kind of stupid with it. I'll
you
watch the
look great.
playback and I looked like a
I think you look great.
looked like a caterpillar.
Like
Yeah, like emerging from a cocoon. That was the first thought. I was like, actually, I thought something else, but I'm not going to say it on the podcast.
No, you look great, Jacob.
No, I look
You
like a
look great.
caterpillar. I looked like the guy from Bug's Life.
I need
who
to watch that.
speaks French. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Anyway, welcome back.
Yeah.
We have to batch record because we'll be out of town, or I'll be out of town next week, and so
Where are you going, by the way? Arizona?
little family trip, Arizona.
Family vacay?
Yeah. So you guys, we apologize for the construction, everything, but we're excited to dive in. This will be a quick one. We have a topic we want to discuss really quick, just for the next half an hour or so, and then we'll leave you to it on this Wednesday. But Nate and I, we've been spending a lot of time last year making our course, and Nate and I, courses, but Nate and I decided that we wanted to create a library designed specifically for beginners. We wanted the people who are getting started into wedding videography have a resource to help them just get their foot off the ground, get their businesses launched, get their technical abilities up to par as quick as possible. Because I feel like a lot of those basic questions that we all have about filmmaking in year one, we wanted to answer those. We would like to make a product and either a course or mentorship for people who have been a little bit more established. But we also felt very strongly that, you know what, if I was somebody in year one, I would want this. And so that's what we made. We made this course. So we bundled it together, called it Year One. And the whole premise, like I said, is just to help you, if you're a beginner, get started. And if you're listening and you're Adam Grumbo or somebody who's way better at this than we are, this podcast might not apply to you. But if you are listening, hopefully you can
Take
draw
some good
some
things.
nuggets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take some good things.
So Nate and I, we want to talk about kind of things that we wish we knew in year one. And I guess you could argue year one as a different starting point for maybe it was your first wedding you ever filmed. Like for me, it was like in 2014. But my first official business year, when I actually decided I wanted to do this as a job, was in 2017.
Right.
Which I'm not sure if you guys know that story, but we won't get into it now. So when was your official year one where you're like, I'm actually going to take on weddings?
First official year.
Because you did it mainly to get through college.
Yeah,
one could say.
I've had a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Because throughout college, I had multiple. I remember walking through campus multiple times and saying, you know, I'm always going to have it as a side gig. I want to be a software developer. That's what I like doing. That's where I see the money. free, insurance paid for.
Do you still
and
want
things
to be
like
a
that.
software developer?
And this is my resignation. No, but
Congratulations, you're the other half of the company.
I'm finishing out the year. But I think crazy it is, my first year would probably be right when I graduated college and started working with FTF. That's when
Okay.
I was finally like,
First
okay.
official.
So like 2021.
Okay.
But from 2016 to 2021, it was very hands-on, part-time, just
Yeah.
doing it to pay the bills.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, well, my year 1 too, I guess, was a lot of part time.
Yeah.
The first half of the year was part time.
Right.
Yeah, and like you just learn a lot. And especially in retrospect, when you look back on that first year, it's just like, wow, what actually mattered and what really didn't matter that I stressed about.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of fun going down that thought process, and that's why our course is so focused on like imagining ourselves in that year and like, well, what didn't we know?
Right.
I didn't know the difference between shutter speed, ISO, and aperture.
I didn't know white balance.
Yeah, I just didn't know what that meant. I don't feel like I even understood white balance really well until like a few years ago. Like
True.
one time it just like clicked for me. And that sounds so probably like everyone's like, "Wow, are you serious?" But seriously, I just I feel like it was always such like a. I spent too long, I guess, trying to find the right white balance, and now I just understand match your balance.
I bet most people don't understand white balance.
I hope so. I hope I'm just like
They know how to use it in their camera.
outing myself.
They know how to use it in their camera, but they don't understand why.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
you're
think-
not
Well, I think Parker taught it in a very confusing way,
exactly.
and that's how I learned it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like once I learned, it wasn't that. So things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the comments like, wait, what's the confusing way of white balance? It's like, well, so yeah, we. One of the first questions I wanted to ask you, Nate, that we can discuss is, and let's talk about your 2016 year one. Like once you started like actually
2016.
booking weddings
Yeah.
recurringly, what do you feel like you stressed about that you look back now and you think, well, that didn't matter in regards to this business?
I think, this is a double-edged sword, but it was really, the biggest thing for me was just capturing everything.
Yeah.
Seriously, my first couple weddings were some of the hardest working days I've ever had. I was filming nonstop. I was filming the flowers. I was filming the little ladybug. I was filming
Film the flowers.
every single, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was filming just every single thing, and the edit came out and it was 3%.
Well, how long did it take you to edit that thing?
It took a long time because I was
So much footage to go through.
I
Yeah.
used like 3% of the footage,
Yeah.
and the rest is just gone. You don't use it. So I would say the biggest thing for me that I had learned was shooting intentionally and shooting for the edit, which is something we teach. Is shoot for the edit. Right, there are big moments that you have to shoot. You got the ceremony, you got speeches, things like that. But you don't have to shoot everything. But it's a double-edged sword because if someone is starting out, the best way to learn what not to shoot,
shoot everything.
is to continuously shoot it until you realize I don't need that.
And I would argue that you don't really know what you don't need to shoot until
Right.
you've put in the 1,000 hours
Right.
and you're like, I never use this shot.
Right.
I don't need to spend time getting it.
And that's just how it is whenever you cover something new. Like even recently when we've started shooting a lot of hotel stuff and live events, we've double shot a lot of stuff. And a lot of that isn't our fault. But even that, there was a learning curve of, I didn't really need that.
Right. But better safe than sorry.
Exactly.
So not really a regret, but more of
It's not really a regret. I'd say the
more of a you're
true,
glad you're out of that phase.
I'm glad I'm out of that phase, but I think what is a regret of mine? I'd say a regret is not understanding the licensing of music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used whatever.
Yeah.
And then it finally starts catching up and you start getting stuff deleted off your account.
It's funny because just this year, Vimeo is now privating all my videos from my year one.
yeah.
So it took them 8 years to catch up to me,
Yeah.
but it's happening.
And it's not like your year one stuff is now portfolio piece, but it's still
Yeah, no.
nice just to have it.
Yeah,
you-
and I want my clients to know they can always go back and look
Right.
at find it on my Vimeo page.
yeah. I actually had that same thing happen to me just a couple months ago. I went into my YouTube and I'm like, this couple is, got married 8 years ago. I'm just going to, luckily I put it on, I believe, private. Is it private or unlisted?
Unlisted is when
yeah.
you can still view it.
And she texted me the next day. I haven't spoken in 8 years. And they said, hey, by the way, we want to watch our video. 8 years later. I'm like,
Yeah, no, it happens.
yeah,
Yeah, I got a text. That's funny you say that because I got a text like 2 months ago from a bride from my year one,
Crazy.
2016,
Yeah.
17, couldn't find her film. and so I had to send. Luckily, I had it all backed up.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah.
I'm trying to think about me.
Yeah, what's one of your regrets from year one?
I think I didn't learn audio.
Yeah,
by year
audio
one.
audio is a big one.
I was also started in the LDS market. There's not a whole lot of need to use audio.
Yeah.
But I still wish I would have had a mic on my camera and like use what we do now, the cheering, the B-roll, just a
Yeah.
little in between moments. I wish I would have emphasized that a lot more in my films.
Yeah.
I mean, I came around to it. It's an integral part of how we edit now. But I just, that year, I think I was focused way too much on, not using audio.
Yeah.
But I also I was, again,
It's just the
funny.
market.
It's not a
It's the
regret,
market.
I guess, because I still I see how that's impacted how I've grown as a human being. And that first year, I was running a 1 camera, 1 lens, 1
Yeah.
gimbal, no lights, no tripod. I had nothing else. I couldn't afford anything, and so I had to prove that I could do it with just that gear.
Yeah.
And once I did, I started buying audio. I started buying lights and stuff.
Yeah, and again, it was just the market. I mean, in the
Yeah.
LDS market, there's not
It doesn't
a
matter as
huge
much.
need.
Mhm.
If we were, growing into the traditional weddings, then
Correct.
yeah, learning audio would be
It is
not
weird.
learning audio in the first
Because
year would be
our
a
year
regret.
one in that market versus someone who has to start in the traditional market and has to learn audio and lighting right away is
drastically
crazy.
different. Yeah, a lot different.
Yeah. I also wish, some of the things I really am glad about on that same vein is forcing myself on 1 camera and 1 lens. I just couldn't afford anything else.
Right.
And I had a 5D Mark IV and a 50 millimeter. And I shot all my weddings
Great setup
with
though.
just that.
Miss those days.
Yeah, 1 camera
Yeah.
setup. And I think once I could prove that I could capture a wedding, and I had to overwork. I had to shoot more than most people did because I had to have variety. I had to get different angles and perspectives of the same lens. And so I think that taught me, 1, how to get variety, 2, how to work harder, and 3, once I added a second camera, I don't know, it was easier to do it because I was comfortable with 1 camera. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Some of my favorite weddings were on 1 camera.
The 5D Mark IV on the 50, I love that setup. That was,
I
that
think
was
just
a
because
great
it was it was the simplicity of it.
I'd say I was trying to think of another regret I had, and a regret I think I would have that I'm still trying to process, and I think we are trying to process, but we're pretty firm on it now. And it's the topic of gear, because for a long time we said gear doesn't matter, and you can even find that in our course. We say, yeah, gear doesn't matter, but now we're saying gear does matter. And in my year one, I just didn't understand, because you're really sold to really hard is you need to get the 5D Mark IV. You have you have the 5D4, get the 1DX2.
Yeah.
You have the 1DX2, get this. And it was just this never ending battle to feel like my films will be so much better when I get that camera, that you're always just working for that camera that you're going to buy, when you should be learning composition, audio, storytelling. Storytelling is a huge one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's still, gear does matter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's got to be kind of at a level. I feel confident now saying where we're at, gear doesn't matter as much because we know how to use it. But to a beginner, I'd say it is nice to have a crutch of good gear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Knowing how to use it, though, is a different story.
Well, someone just posted in our group saying, I have $800 to spend. Here's my setup. What's gonna, hurt me?
Right.
And it was his first wedding ever. And he had a kit lens. And nothing else. No gear, no lighting. I was like, well, your lens is gonna hurt you the most.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, but once nighttime comes along and you're shooting at 5.4, it's gonna matter. Without lights, you're gonna have either grainy ISO, bad grain, not arts grain,
Not artsy.
bad grain.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt you.
Not understanding the difference between a kit lens and a
So that's when it matters.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're back. Sorry. Contractors finished their construction.
So now we're going to have great audio.
Yeah. That was a 20-minute intervention. But in the 20 minutes, Nate and I started talking about non-year one things. And I want to tell a little story.
About fashion.
About fashion.
Wow.
But this is a story I was raised on by Mama Weisler, Rebecca. In her high school, one year the trend was if you were cool if you had a red bandana and you wore it around your arm or your leg. Like you tied a red bandana around your jeans, your ankle, your thigh, your
Wait, you
arm.
said this was during your mom's
My
time?
mom's high school.
Okay.
On your arm. Like everyone just had if you were cool, you had a red bandana tied around. And she never gave in. And the metaphor that she always taught us as kids is like, be aware of your, the red bandanas around you. And fashion really just is a red bandana.
It is.
It's just all the cool kids are trying to impress the other cool kids and fit in. But when you take a step back and look at it, you're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But in that moment, it doesn't matter.
You want to know what's crazy?
Like mullets.
Do we know anyone with a mullet?
No, some guys pull off a mullet super well.
Yeah. No, what's crazy is that everybody will get to a point where they're just old enough where they don't care what they wear.
Yeah.
They'll wear just the dad
Yeah.
shorts, the sandals. Why do we care so much?
But I was raised, I don't know, I was raised to not care about that. And I wish I cared a little bit because I feel like I never really learned style.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate the principle of like I never felt a need to like buy what everyone else was wearing.
Yeah, same.
I remember our lacrosse team in high school. Everyone wore polo. Ralph Lauren, excuse me.
Ralph Lauren, yeah.
Yeah, Ralph Lauren. Everyone wore it. It was the shirts, the khaki shorts above the knee, just like OBX, like the frat stuff,
Right.
and then
Right.
those shoes. And everyone on the lacrosse team wore that, just the preppy. And so I remember telling my mom that's what I wanted to wear. And there's like a $60 t-shirt from Ralph Lauren. And I was like a Target guy. I would always go to Target and buy my clothes.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I think you're kind of buying a red bandana here. And I wore it once and I felt stupid. And I could tell I was just trying to do it to fit in. And I was like, F that, I'm just gonna wear what I want to wear.
Yeah. Same. There's a fine line between, I don't know. Because if it were up to me, I'd just wear sweats and sandals every single day. Workout clothes are comfy to me.
I like workout
I
clothes.
like wearing workout
I like
clothes.
this.
But at some point, you got to dress to impress, you know?
Yeah, I want to dress like Ryan Reynolds. That's my goal.
Yeah. But day to day, I could dress in sandals and sweats and just not care.
Yeah, but you're also one of those guys that would like when you wear it, people are like intentionally like you could walk into like a 5-star restaurant wearing that and people are like, oh, he's probably just famous. You just like you just rock it.
No, it's just
Or if I wore
just-
that, people would be like, there's a dress code, sir. And the kids eat in the back. Oh, thanks. Anyway, back to year one.
Maybe we should have, we'll have a discussion about fashion and our lack of in coming episodes.
Yeah. Maybe. Sounds like a horrible episode.
I mean, I'm wearing the black ripped jeans right now because this is the only pair of jeans I got and everything else is dirty.
It looks great though.
I wasn't going to give you the benefit of wearing my black cargos again and you'd be like, wearing your black cargos and
Because
beanie.
Nate rocks them, but it's all he wears. Buy another pair.
Dude, if it were up to me, I would have the same 5 shirts and the same pants
Why not?
and I'd wear the same thing every single day.
Just get 5 pants and 5 shirts and 5 jackets and just have an endless
A ton of-
combination.
a ton of combinations. Isn't that like a 555,
Yeah.
125 different?
Something. Back to year one. Sponsored by Fiji. No, so year one.
Right.
I think a lot of us obsess over the things. So let's talk about the things that actually should be at the forefront of your mind. And I think it's important to make the distinction too, from your experience. If you're doing it as a side thing versus if you want to do it as your new job,
Correct.
then your year one's probably drastically different. So we're mainly talking about the people who actually want to turn this into a career and provide for their families and make money doing this as a job. Quit their 9 to 5 if that's the goal. Set up the future, whatever it is. That's kind of the year oneers I'm talking to here.
Yeah.
So in that in mind, what would you say is something crucial that everyone should be focusing on in year one?
I think if I were to sit down with one person who wants to make wedding filmmaking their career, they want to pay the bills, the thing that I would teach now is networking with planners. I think it's invaluable in the long run. It's going to take care of you. And I hate cliches. I hate phrases. I hate it when people outsource thinking to the internet. And I stand by this, though, that your network is your net worth. That's one of those where I'm like, ugh,
It's a good phrase.
I've tried to.
No, it's a good phrase.
I've tried to, argue against it, but it really is true. If you know planners, they're going to keep feeding you weddings. Doesn't matter if you have a social media. Doesn't matter if your website goes down. Their word alone will book you weddings. So I would sit down And I would just really emphasize the importance of being able to network and good old fashioned networking. Like it's not all through social media. Go to events, go to workshops, go to meetups, whatever it is. Just find a way to get your foot in the door with a planner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I learned that without really like, taking into account my first year. Like I like that those things happen where vendors made me more money, but I just didn't really connect the dots that way. Like, oh, I should focus on them more.
Yep.
Like I made friends with Courtney, and then she booked me 3 weddings that month that we became friends. And then I made friends with somebody who owned that bridal shop in Provo. Let one of my videos play at their bridal shop, booked me weddings. But I just never really thought of it that way. And I just kept trying to hustle and find brides. And so, yeah, I like that. I think that is, for all of you in your first year, the principle is find people who will help you market yourself for you.
Yeah.
The power of a good referral is invaluable. And we all know this from Amazon shopping. Are you going to buy the product that might be cheaper, or would you buy the product that has 20,000 5-star reviews?
Exactly.
Obviously, okay, people vouch for this one. That the power of someone saying, oh, you have to use Jake and Nate is just invaluable to us. Invaluable?
Invaluable, yeah.
Invaluable to us. For some reason, that
It's
sounds like
invaluable.
it's like disvaluable.
No.
Unvaluable. Oh,
It's-
unvaluable is the word. Okay.
Yeah.
Invaluable
Yeah,
is good.
it's invaluable.
So yeah, I like that. For me, I think I'd agree with you. I don't want to use your same answer though, so let me think of a new one. I think a crucial, taking the networking, since that's covered now from you, I do think spending the year and focusing on your technical abilities.
Yeah.
I think it'll just do you a lot of favors in the long run.
Yeah.
Make you, and again, I'm not saying that it's the most important thing, but I'm saying it will make you a much more efficient filmmaker. Is if you know how to quickly, if you know what your lenses do, what each focal length does, and I'm surprised at how many people don't understand still that focal lengths should be used in certain scenarios and when they shouldn't be. Like it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I think spending a year and just really honing in your technical abilities as a filmmaker so that when situations come up, you can quickly adapt without having to Google or worry or stress about anything. You can adapt. Good example is like whenever a curveball is thrown, and we've probably experienced almost every curveball you can experience when it comes to audio. Rarely are we ever stressed, even if it's the most annoying problem, because we know what to do. Think of that one venue we shot at where we had to,
The closet.
yeah, like but we weren't like stressing because we knew that there's a solution. We just had to figure it out and problem solve it, but we knew how to do that. So I think spend a year investing in understanding your technical abilities. And luckily, that's what our course does. That's what a lot of courses do, is help you get better as a filmmaker. And maybe if that requires you to take on mentorships, second shoot for people, like whatever it takes, like I think improving your technical abilities as a filmmaker will make your life so much easier.
Would you say, kind of a loaded question here, but do you think there is one technical thing that you need to learn first? Like, do you need to learn your camera? Do you need to learn your editing software first? What would you say would be the most important technical aspect to learn first?
I mean, I think a perfect editor can only save bad footage so far. So I would say focus on nailing your shots. Before you're trying to be all creative, just focus on capturing the shot.
Learning how to work with a gimbal or a glide cam,
before
tripods.
you worry about getting a really cool angle of the first look, just first show me. What impresses me more is if you can show me a locked off shot of a first look with one camera and one angle, perfectly composed and exposed. That impresses me so much more than a 4-camera setup that's all like, eh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
So I think just learning to nail your hero shots. Like show me that you can shoot a ceremony with one camera, exposed properly from start to finish.
Yeah, I agree.
That impresses me so much more than these guys who are doing 12 cameras who every single angle looks bad. And then if you can perfect that one angle, over time, you add more and you add more and you add more. And then pretty soon you're Adam Grumbo, who can do a 12-camera setup without breaking a sweat. And every angle looks amazing
Blows my mind.
because he's perfected each one individually. But he didn't try to perfect them all at once.
At what point would you say it's acceptable to start outsourcing your edits?
That's such a hard question. Part of me wants to say, well, if you're not good at it, then let someone who's good at it do your editing for you. Part of me wants to say, well, you should know how to edit. Because how could you give feedback to an editor if you don't know how to do it yourself?
Right.
So I'm torn on that one. I do think, okay, but to answer your question, I think once your backlog
You're busy enough.
is hurting your business.
Yeah. I think the problem is, though, that a lot of people don't know and they don't plan for that. And so all of a sudden they have 10, 12 weddings in their backlog and they realize I need to start sending these off to an editor, but I don't have the money because the money from those clients, from those 10 to 12 clients, has already been spent.
Right, and they didn't bake in an editor price.
Exactly.
Not trying to be rude here, but I also think many people who think, I need to outsource, are just too lazy to edit.
Right.
And I do think if that's the case, you got to get over yourself and just grind it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put in the late nights, or you got to time manage your day better, and you just have to edit those.
Yeah.
Or your business will just lose money.
Right.
Like, again, your pricing should be built on your costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this so many times. And so if all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to edit this, for whatever reason, you just never got around to it, and you're on a pay an editor, all of a sudden you're just losing money. And if that's more important to you to get the edit done than to make money, then I'm just like, and then Alex might agree with you from last week because that means you're not doing it for the money. But
You're
I'm
bettering
like,
your
well,
craft.
your business should be making money
It should.
because that's just, I hate that it is, but that's how the world works,
Yeah.
and that's what you need to sustain yourself.
Yeah, one of our good friends and colleagues, Alexander Ma, we've talked about him a couple of times. We went out to his workshop in Italy this past year, and we sat down for our first meal with him. And he and his team were there talking about pricing. And
Yeah.
we sit there and we're saying, hey, this is how we do it. We charge, 50% up front and then
Yeah.
50% like a week or a month before. And they do you remember? We were shocked. We were shocked because they almost started laughing.
Well, they didn't like know us yet, and so they all kind of like looked at
Yeah,
each
we
other.
could see that something was wrong. And all we know is that that's
And
pretty
the sales
standard.
guy was taking a deep breath. Well, what you want to be doing?
Well, yeah, because what we're doing is pretty standard. A lot of people charge 50%.
I'd say it's industry
right
standard,
upon right upon booking, and then a month before the rest. And Jackie, Alexander's brother, he is the sales guy, and he started just explaining. He's like, "Well, what we do is we charge this much, and we really, really want them to pay 100% upfront." And Jake, you and I looked at each other. We're like, "Well," and we had the same question. Don't you feel like you're working for free on the wedding day? Because we've all done that. We've all been paid well in advance. Maybe it was a year in advance, and you show up and you feel like you're working for free, and it's a
you've already
terrible
spent the
feeling.
money,
You've
yeah.
already spent that money. So if you do want to hire an editor, it feels like you're paying out of pocket instead of your couple's pocket. And so I'll never forget the response. They said, "Well, if you aren't making money the day of that wedding, you're doing something wrong. Why aren't you marketing it? Why aren't you making money from marketing that
And
wedding?"
not to filmmakers, to brides.
Right. Why aren't you using that wedding
he's an
to
educator,
make
you guys,
more
but
money?
he's not saying to make money off of other filmmakers for your educational stuff. He's saying making money from brides.
Exactly. And that's when they open us up to, hey, we'll charge, we actually push them to pay if they pay 100% upfront, what that gets them is an extra 2 or 3 hours of
Yeah, so
coverage.
if you pay up for it right now, I'll give you 2 extra hours.
Yeah, which it goes from 8 hours to 10 hours, which is pretty standard for a union job. So really, they're not offering that much extra. They're just getting it all up front. And he said, cash flow is everything. You need that cash because if you have all that money up front, maybe you have 10 to 12 in your backlog. You can now use that money from the person you booked next year to pay for some outsourcing.
Yeah.
And then again, our whole confusion and worry about not making money the day of, they said, well, throughout the rest of the year, we'll run specials. We'll send emails to our brides
Yeah.
on Valentine's Day saying, hey, Valentine's Day special, if you want a FOMO edit, here's a price.
And he teaches this man, you spend more money at concession stands than
Yep.
you do on the movie ticket.
Yeah. And
He
I wish
lives by that.
I wish I understood that sooner. Is pricing yourself, again, there's no right way of doing it. There's a ton of right ways to do it. But learn how to make money from other than just charging for filming and editing.
Yeah.
FOMO, speech edits, things like
add-ons.
that.
And I remember we briefly did the 4 payment plan option.
Right.
We thought it'd be easier since we were doing a high new price point. And I remember Lindsay from Larev was like, he's like, clients don't want that. I was like, yeah, they do. Like it's smaller payments. And he's like, yeah, but it's just more to keep track of. He's like, just make it easier on them. And I never thought of it making it easier on them by doing less payments.
Right.
And so to Alex's credit, it's like by doing one payment, client's just done. Like boom, booked. Don't have to worry about my videographer ever again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, Alex is a genius. He has something going.
He does.
And his community, and Alex doesn't even shoot weddings that very often, but his community is doing that, and they're all thriving.
Yeah.
And they're under the radar too.
Yeah, they're in their own little
Yeah,
community.
it's amazing. Alex is awesome. So yeah, pricing. I think pricing was something that I learned. I'm still learning, and it's weird learning a lot more about the production side of videography, doing corporate work, and how different that pricing module seemed versus weddings. Because I feel like with weddings, I was basing our pricing off of like industry standards and what we should be charging. But then once we started doing these production shoots this last year, I was like, oh, it's such a different way of pricing yourself. But I was like, well, why?
Doesn't
It
need
doesn't
to be.
have to be. It should. Wedding should be the exact same. It's still a shoot.
You're a production company.
Client is paying us to provide a service, and we should total up our costs, add on our fee, and so forth. And so, and I guess this brings us to the next thing. And guys, forgive me, but we haven't really like ironed out how to teach this yet. So please just bear with me as I try to articulate what Nate and I've been discussing for like 3 months now, back and forth. And if you already know this, awesome. But this is something we've been learning. Is I feel like in my year one, every penny Jake Weisler Films made was for Jake Weisler Films.
Yeah.
And I needed that money for my business to keep going, to buy gear, pay for things. That money was already spent when I made it, right?
Right.
And so think of Jake Weisler Films as the entity. Well, let's just use Runaway Vows as the example. Runaway Vows. So then Jake and Nate don't get paid because Runaway Vows is taking all the money because they need it, because they're not factoring in the cost of labor. And so now it's like, okay, well, let's say for a wedding, you don't want to shoot your wedding and walk away with nothing. You know, your life needs to go on. Your business needs to make money, but you also need to make money. Because if you only make your business money and you don't make money, then you'll never be able to sustain anything in your life.
And I'm just going to interject real quick right there, because people might say, well, if I'm a one-person entity, why does my business need to make money? And it's because you have to buy gear.
Great.
You have to buy flights.
Yes. You should. This is a whole other thing, but you should set up your LLC so that you work for your business.
Yep.
That way your business will pay you, and it will save you a lot of money on taxes, because you'll be paying yourself a salary even though your business is making X amount more.
Yeah.
That way you're only taxing or being taxed on your individual salary, and then your business is separately. And that way, yes, your business money and your personal money spends can be separate.
Yeah.
Gear, softwares, Wi-Fi, whatever it is. Anyway, so if you only let your business make money, you'll take the hit. And I feel like that's what we did for a while. And it's like, okay, well, this production stuff, it's like, okay, well, like if you're shooting a wedding for your company, so let's just make this analogy super easy. Let's just say I work for Runaway Vows, just me. I say, okay, well, I want to walk away from this weekend making $2,000, but I also want my business to make $2,000. Boom, I charge $4,000 for a wedding. And now I can pay myself for working, and my business still makes good money. So you start to see now, okay, well, now if you want a second shooter, okay, well, that second shooter is going to cost me $800 that day. Well, let's just say 1,000 for even numbers. Okay, well, I have to pay him 1,000, double that, $2,000. Now I cost $6,000 to shoot a wedding. I can pay myself money to shoot my second shooter, and my business still makes $3,000. And you start to see, okay, well, now adding on softwares, adding on editors, you just start, your business can make money and everyone gets paid still, and you don't have to walk away starving.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have learned that faster, because I think it would have helped me make a lot more financial decisions.
Yeah.
Or better financial decisions.
I think,
My camera's blinking. How long do I have?
5 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, actually going along with that, something that I always made the mistake of is hiring a second shooter. I put it as an add-on for $500 because
And you probably paid them $500.
yeah, because in the LDS market, $500
That was
for
pretty good, yeah.
that's great for a second shooter for one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so my add-on was just that, $500. And I didn't understand that I should be making money from having a second shooter with me because I'm kind of seen as the manager of that second shooter.
Well, also, your workload goes up.
Exactly.
Because now you're editing twice as much footage
Yep.
And delivering a better product.
Yeah.
Which you should be charging more for.
All right. So if I'm going to be paying my second shooter $500, just double it. Say, hey, it's $1,000. And that way, if your second shooter charges for overages or there's some disagreement about travel or whatever it is, you still have
a
this
spill
little
fund. Yeah.
Yeah. Your business is basically a little fund. And I wish I understood that
And
sooner.
that's how you scale. And that's how you make money.
You and your business need to make money, even if you are a one-person entity.
This isn't new. This isn't like new Jake and Nate doctrine. This is just, I feel like this is business 101.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. But the problem is, and we've talked about this before, is this is a creative field. A lot of people get into this field because they're creative,
Right.
artsy, and they don't understand the making money side. They think that I'll just make money from it. But making money from it is also it's very deliberate. Yeah. You have to be mindful of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there should be a fund of money that you use to buy gear, pay your editors, pay for your softwares, your Wi-Fi, your business expenses, and it should not bleed over into buying food, paying for gas,
Completely separate.
putting a roof over your head.
Right.
It should not be the same because then then all of a sudden it's all the same, and all of a sudden you're broke.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes your taxes easier too.
Yep, it does. Yeah, couldn't agree more. So I think that's where I think a point of my year one I wish I would have understood better because I feel like Jake Weiser Films could have scaled a little faster if I would have factored in my pricing better. And that way also the stress of like knowing what to charge goes away.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, because then maybe we've already talked about this before. We definitely talked about it on our webinar, but it's like, okay, well, like let's say your goal is to make $100,000 this year. Then it's like, okay, well, then that means I have to make $8,300 a month. Okay, well, if I'm charging $2,000, I have to film 4 weddings a month, 1 every weekend, all year. And it's like, well, then from that, my business should take half of that. I should take half. So then I'm actually only making, this much a month. It's like, okay, then start doing the math. What do you want to make a month? You personally, what do you want your business to make a month personally? And then that's how you should start analyzing what you should be charging. And then your job, if that number is, then you compare that number to industry standards, not before, but after. And you say, okay, well, this number in the industry standard, my film should look and have this level of production value. Do they? No. That's when you start investing in courses and getting better mentorships and closing that gap so that you're actually worth that price that you want to be at. Because your other option is then to just lower your price and take a hit on your goals, which you might have to do. But if your goal is like, I want to film, I want to make 6 figures and film 1 wedding a month, it's like, okay, well then you have to charge $8,300 a wedding. Are you good enough for $8,300 a wedding? Yeah. No. Okay, well then you either have to lower your prices and work more, or you need to bridge the gap between why you're not that good yet.
Yeah. No, I think a really helpful exercise to do, and I remember doing this one time, and it shocked me to see how much I was losing money, I guess. At this point, I think I was just starting college. Maybe I was a year or 2 in, and I was in the LDS market, and I was charging $2,000. That was like a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and I remember I watched a YouTube video. Someone was teaching this, and I sat down, and I tallied up all of my equipment, every single thing, the drone, every lens, camera body, and I went to a lens rental website, and I saw how much each piece of equipment was to rent for a day.
Yeah.
That was now my kit fee. That's baked into my pricing. And so let's say it costs $100 to rent your drone for the day.
Yeah.
Put that in there. $100 for your camera body. It could very easily be $500 to $1,000 for everything you bring. That is now included in your fee. Then what's your day rate? Is it $1,200? Is it $2,000?
Right.
Who knows? If it's a 1-day wedding, boom, there you go. So now all of a sudden you could be well over $2,000 with your kit fee. And then something that you taught me was the softwares. If I project that I'm going to be filming 40 weddings and I'm paying a couple hundred a month.
VidFlow, MusicBed, it's expensive.
Right.
HoneyBook.
It stacks
Yeah.
up quick. So let's say I'm paying, $100 a month on just my softwares. Bake that into my price. And then at the end of all of that, your production company, your LLC should be making money. So however you want to do that, if you want
Because you have to pay taxes next year.
exactly, yeah, exactly. That's
You
another
should
thing.
have a tax fund.
That's another thing. If it's an in-state wedding, the in-state tax, put that in there. And then your production, if we know people who just take what you've added up and just double it, triple it. Some people just do 20% and tag it on there. But I remember sitting
That's
down.
where there's a lot of liberties you can take.
That's where-
depending
yeah.
on what's best for you. Yeah.
and your demand and things like that, and how good you feel like how well you'll be able to reach
Absolutely.
that goal. But I remember sitting down, and at this point, I was charging like $2,000 for an LDS edit, and on paper, on this little sticky note, I had it written out to like I think it was $6,500 that I should be charging, and I was just I was mind blown because I saw that with each wedding I filmed, I'm basically losing $4,500.
Let me ask you this:
Would I have
Are
booked
you
weddings
worth at that time?
Right.
Were you worth $6,500?
for LDS weddings? No. But with traditional weddings,
So where
I
do
think
the-
I could
So
have.
where's the line?
It's going to be a little specific to I think markets.
Yeah.
Because at that point, yes,
even at that point,
traditional weddings, I could have got away
you
with
were
it.
worth $6,500.
Yeah, I think I could. Yeah, I think I could have because I knew, and yeah, it is like you said, it's a bit of a gray zone because I knew people less talented than me charging
Yeah.
that amount,
Yeah.
and especially with the help of a second shooter,
Mm-hmm.
editing house, things like that, I had no doubt that I could get there, but little in the market I was in, no,
Right.
it's not. I don't think anyone is going to be charging
Yeah.
$6,500 to
No.
film a
But no,
one-day
it-
LDS
like,
wedding.
it's a great practice though.
Yeah.
Like you should be telling them what's your kit fee,
You should tally up
all
everything.
these things, just to understand what are you really worth, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and knowing. I think a good starting point for everyone listening is just knowing your day rate. Like,
Yeah.
what does it cost to get you out of bed on a Saturday for 8 hours?
Yeah.
Because I remember Parker, he was like, I'm not even worth like his day rate was his half day rate. He's like, I'm not gonna leave my
For 4 hours.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get out of bed for 4 hours. I'm gonna get out, you're gonna get my full day rate because I have to block off the day anyway.
Right.
And people might disagree with that or not, but so then you start factoring in costs like that, and it's like, okay. And then we started learning, okay, like travel day fees. Like, okay, we have to, and we didn't do this ever. I never did this.
Yeah.
I think for a few clients who I knew could afford it, I did it with, or it was like a hot season back in my day. But like travel day fees, when it's like, okay, well, I have to fly to your location on a Saturday. I could have booked a wedding on that Friday for $5,000, but I'm flying now to film your wedding for $5,000. I could have potentially made 10 grand in those 2 days, but I didn't because I had to fly. So it's not very uncommon to charge a travel day fee and say it's like, you know, an extra $1,000, $500 per day. I have to just travel on top of travel expenses.
Yeah.
I don't think you should tell your clients that.
No.
I think you should just
Bake it in.
that into your base packaging. Like instead of $5,000, it's going to cost you $6,000 for this wedding because I have to spend 2 days traveling. 2 days I can't work.
Yeah.
On top of travel fees. So I think like just learning all those things over the course of the last 10 years has just been, and I think I forget sometimes people in their year one, I'm like, oh, you're not. I think that's the hard part about education is that sometimes you learn things and it becomes so second nature to you, you forget that sometimes it needs to be explained and taught.
I think, and going back to what you were just saying and what we've been recently talking about too is, and I'll say that it doesn't matter where you're at, if you're a beginner or if you're established, the client doesn't need to know your breakdown of how they're being charged.
No.
They don't need to know how the
I
cookies
yell
made.
this to people. They don't need to know how the burger is made.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they get a quote for $6,000, you don't ever apologize for saying, oh, well, because you hired on a second shooter, that was $1,000. And then my travel, just, hey, $6,000. Boom. There it is.
Landon teaches this actually at his workshop. He was saying like, and if they can't afford it and they need to bring the price down, then you remove things.
Yeah.
You don't just say, okay, you remove things
Right.
so that they know they're not getting the best.
Right.
Oh, you can't afford that? Okay, well, let's see what we can do. Okay, I can remove the second shooter. You don't get a second shooter. And I can remove the ceremony edit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you have to start removing things to compromise. You can't just say yes to changes
Right.
and to budget cuts because your business will just take a hit.
Right.
And if it's like this crazy opportunity, like obviously case by case, if it's a crazy opportunity and it's like, you know what, what I'm getting out of this is worth way more than the money I'm making, then obviously. But like those cases are a lot more rare. And I think we've abused the term free to fee for people to think that like it's every time. Those situations where like the value you get from doing something for free is worth more than the money you would have made. Those are so rare.
Right.
They do happen.
Right.
But they're so much more rare than I think we all
Yeah.
act like they are.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's like, no, it's not really worth it. You should be getting paid.
It's a portfolio piece in a destination spot. Sure. But
There's been 3 times where I've thought it was going to be a portfolio piece, and it was probably one of the worst things I ever shot.
yeah, there's been quite a few.
Yeah.
Even since starting Runaway Vows, we've looked back and we're just said, man, we're done taking on
Yeah.
any free thing that comes our way. Take it at a discount, sure.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to be good,
Case
but
by case, yeah.
you got to make money.
But stick to your
Pay
worth, know
yourself.
your worth. And that's why I love the Alicia's thing last year. She probably got so many inquiries to do cool European things. And she said, no, I'm going to stick to it was Alicia, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to my guns. I know what I'm worth. I will wait for a client to come along and pay my full price. And she waited and she got it.
In Italy.
What a win. And I wish we would talk more about that.
Yep.
Is stick to your price. And I think the people who maybe are sticking to their price too hard and never getting a booking, that's when it's time to evaluate, well, where's the chink in your armor?
You got to test the water, yeah.
Are you worth it? Is the imposter syndrome real?
Right.
Do you need to improve your technical abilities, your networking abilities? Do you need to improve your storytelling? Do you need to improve how you communicate with people? That's when you start to really need to self-evaluate and become that price tag that you're offering.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might just not be worth it.
Yeah.
And I also promise, I bet if you would have stuck to $6,500 as a LDS videographer with that same principle, you would have found a client who would have, you know what I mean?
Eventually, yeah.
It would have been a much smaller
Yeah.
circle, but that client does exist.
Yeah, and it's just kind of hard because it's hard though because you understand that, you know, in my example, if I would have gone 60, and you know the LDS market, if I would say I'm $6,500 for it would be a long time
It would be never.
till I found
It
somebody.
would be once maybe a year.
Right. But let's say there is a world where there's the super rich LDS people and you get into it with that one after a year or two of waiting, then it pays off. But
That's a weird.
most people don't
interesting-
have that freedom to just wait around.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, I
Well,
think
and yeah, to go off that too, my first year, I was much more concerned about my portfolio than I was about making money. Because I knew that I would make more money if I had a portfolio.
Right.
It wasn't, I would make, I don't know. It was just so clear to me. I was like, before I could, to show people what I can do, I need to have proof.
Right.
And so I would just take everything because I just needed portfolio. And then once I had a portfolio that I was proud of, I was like, okay, now I'm going to charge and never say no, you know,
Yeah.
until a new opportunity comes along. And I'm like, yeah, that would actually open up a whole new door. And I would fast track me into that, like fast track me into a feature or into a destination I want to go to, or Hawaii.
right.
But portfolio to me was a lot more, it paid my bills to me in my mind faster than money would have.
Yeah.
Because then it allowed me to sell myself easier.
Yeah.
Because we're just salesmen.
That's
We're
all it
offering a
is.
service.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think this idea of viewing our businesses as our LLCs as production companies has changed my shift as well in thought. And we have talked about on our podcast before is that there's kind of this feeling that if you decide you're going to be a wedding videographer, it's either 100% you're a wedding videographer and paying your bills, or you're a failure because you can't pay your bills. And recently we've realized this. There's a lot of wiggle room. You can be a very successful wedding filmmaker. All the top dogs like Larev, 31 Films, and countless others that we look up to, they also have side clients that do commercial work. They're shooting in restaurants. They're shooting commercials. They're doing all these other things. And I wish I understood that too, because thinking I was only a wedding videographer and that's all I could do. And if I didn't have enough weddings to pay the bills, I was a failure. That's kind of that's a dangerous place to be. Expand your skill set. Learn how to communicate with clients, because there's a lot of good traits and skills that transfer from being able to handle that part of your business.
Absolutely.
Networking with people and learning how to leverage every single shoot.
Absolutely. And if you only want to be a wedding videographer, you got to be damn good at it.
Oh, yeah.
And if,
And you gotta
if
love
you
it.
don't want to do any corporate work or any of that, like, sorry, you have to put the hours in
Yeah.
and truly become one of the best.
And you have to love it. And that's, I'd say that's a small pool of
And
people that are willing to do
to
both.
discourage you further, very few people actually make it to that level of only doing weddings, loving doing only weddings, and not working all day, every day at weddings.
Right. A job is a job.
You got to work hard at it. Yeah.
So yeah, film other things other than weddings.
The best, most, and I'm not even affiliated with them, but the best, most worthwhile thing I ever did in my year one was buy a course.
Yeah.
And this isn't even a plug for Full Time Filmmaker. I'm not an affiliate. We're not dropping affiliate links, but it was the best thing I ever did. Not because it led to a job, which was awesome, but before I got the job, it made me a successful wedding videographer in my year one. Just having someone open my eyes up to what I didn't know and teach me how to use my camera, teach me how to land clients, and teach me how to edit, that was like the most invaluable thing I've ever received. All for whatever I paid for it, $600.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy to me.
I think you do need a mentor to
You do.
push past a ceiling that you don't know is there.
Right. You're right. Yeah. Because you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah. People who, no, I won't go into it now.
Or you'll take a long time to figure it out, and by that time, the whole market's changed.
Yeah.
So you could figure out how to price yourself or how to
Yeah.
shoot better or the technicalities of your gear, and by the time you learn all those things, there's new gear out. There's new methods of networking. There's all these new things. So yeah, you gotta hire people that know what you don't know right now to get where you want to right now.
Yeah. Just having someone open your eyes up to a new way of thinking is
Yeah.
so healthy. And again, I think the important thing too, you don't need to drink in what they're pouring.
No.
But you should listen to it.
Yeah.
Because like I said in last week's episode, even if you disagree with 90% of what they said, those 10% that you're like, actually, yeah,
That could be
could be big for you.
the biggest change to
And
your
something my
business.
dad always tried to help us do is like, when you disagree with somebody, what can you learn from them? Ignore the bad and just cling to the good. And when I watch people's wedding films who I think might be bad, I'm like, you know what, this is a bad film.
Right.
Or even a bad Hollywood movie. There's a lot of bad, but I'm like, okay, well, what's something good that they do better than me? Because there's probably something.
Right.
And if you think there's nothing, then you're just a cocky SOB and you need to be humbled and you need to open your eyes up. And I'm sorry to tell you, but you're not him or her. Like,
Yeah.
if you think you know it all, if you think you're unteachable, that's a problem.
Yeah. So I'd love just to take a sec to tell our people what we've been working on lately then,
Yeah,
kind of along
please.
those lines, because we really do believe in mentorship. We do believe in coaches, and people always ask us for advice and they want answers, and we're very open. We say we pay for coaching calls. There are people that we look up to that we consider our mentors, and that will never change.
No.
And so what we've been working on recently, because we realize that we do have a community, that if you're a wedding videographer, if you find yourself in this stage, we've been working on a webinar, a 45-minute webinar where we talk much more in depth about a lot of these things we've talked about in this podcast, but we talk
Much more
about
structured way.
yeah, much more structured and non-construction interrupted. But we talk a lot about these things. We talk about, your gear. We talk about storytelling. We talk about how to work with planners, delivering your film. There's a lot of things we talk about in this 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And we are just finishing it up, just barely.
It should be done by the time you watch this.
That's true. This will be out. And we will put links in whatever platform you're watching this. But if you are in that stage, if you've been really resonating with this episode and things we've been talking about, highly encourage you just to check out the link to our webinar, because we
free.
Yeah.
Just want to provide some value. Full transparency, we do throw in a pitch at the end for our course. The money we make from that course just fuels our ventures and making more things. And I wish we could give it all away for free, but we just can't. But the webinar is fully free. There's no paywall to get in. But at the end, we do hook you up with a huge discount on our online course if you want it. You don't have to want it though, but it's a much deeper dive into the webinar, over 12 in-depth modules.
Yeah.
Webinar fully free, 45 minutes of your time if you want basically another episode of this podcast, but in a very structured and visually pleasing way.
Yeah. Because we can talk about all these things for forever.
Yeah, we could. I could go off. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it's been that long.
No, yeah, we've already been talking for an hour. We said this was going to be a half hour.
We got to like 4 questions. You guys, thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. We're getting this year. We had a lot of plans for this quarter, and then we picked up that contract in Vegas, and it's kind of thrown a wrench in all of our goals. We wanted to launch. I know a lot of you are asking. Everyone who's like religiously following the podcast are the people who
Champagne
actually
Club,
are keeping up with like where's the Champagne Club.
Right.
It's done. We have it basically built out. We just haven't launched it because we need to have the time to devote to it. We're not going to launch a half-baked. We're not going to launch something that we can't.
Follow through with.
Let me just restart. I'm just mumbling. The whole point of the Champagne Club was a dedicated one-on-one personalized coaching where Nate and I sat down with you on individual calls and helped you progress. And it requires time, and we were fully ready to give that time, which would come out to about 20 hours a week of just online calls. And our time got sucked away. So it's on the back burner, but we're hoping to maybe, we'll see.
Just stay tuned. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
We'll keep you updated.
So for now, there's a webinar.
It's
of
still
course.
something that we really want to do because we do see the value in it. But yeah,
Yeah.
just working through some things.
All right, guys, we're gonna end it there. We'll catch you in the next one.
Catch you in the next one. Cheerio.
Goodbye.